Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to RGV Community Health Hour. This is DJ Calija Kid, and you're listening to Vaquero Radio, the Valley Student Station. On today's show, we have Denise Carriaga-Lucio, a PhD student in clinical psychology. Clinical psych, right? Is
Yes.
that right? Okay,
Yes,
well,
that's correct.
yeah, so thank you for coming on the show. I really appreciate it because it was really kind of a last minute or short notice thing, I should say. And
No,
yeah, I appreciate you coming on the show.
Well, I greatly appreciate you inviting me, especially reaching out on that support group for Alzheimer's and dementia. I thought it was a great opportunity to be able to talk to you and share more about what I know and with my experience with community health. So
Awesome.
Thank you in return.
Yeah, of course. And so, if you don't mind telling us a little bit about yourself, where you grew up, your undergrad education, and kind of your educational background, and what brought you here to UTRGV.
Yeah. So I am a native RGV. I was born in McAllen, Texas specifically, but I grew up more in the North Edinburgh area. So they do call it more so like the Monte. So yeah, it's closer to Hargo. I'm not sure if anybody's really heard of Hargo, but that's where me and my family mainly grew up.
Okay.
My grandpa's dad, he had a ranch there, and so basically we kind of like dispersed and grew up in that area. But so yeah, I'm native to the RGV. In regards to my education, I was kind of one of those RGVers that really grew up with wanting to get out of the RGV, if you know what I mean. So in high school, I was like, there's got to be like more opportunities out there, perhaps. Like I love my family, I love the people here, but I want to really know what's out there. And so I started applying to as many like Texas universities as I could. I applied to even California universities.
Wow.
So like Berkeley.
Nice.
Private universities like Baylor University, which was my number one that I really wanted to go to because of their neuroscience program. But my passion for the brain, because that's actually what I went into for my undergrad, really stemmed from me actually being in the music programs here in the RGV in the high school system. So I started with orchestra. I did mariachi at Edinburgh North High School.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, and so there was one day in particular that my orchestra director, Mr. Yannis, he's absolutely amazing orchestra director. He took us really far in learning not just about how to play instruments and how to play music, but also teaching us music theory.
Okay,
and
nice.
So there was this one day where he showed a documentary in class called Alive Inside. And so basically it told the stories of a music therapist going to like elderly care facilities where people were really struggling with Alzheimer's and dementia. They were in a way kind of in a sedated state where they didn't engage, they didn't talk to anybody. And in that documentary, he really showed the power of playing music from these individuals' pasts.
Wow.
And so I was like, dang, like I love music. And I thought that was like originally what I was going to go into, like doing a undergrad in like music teaching maybe. But then that sparked my interest in like, wow, I wonder what else music could possibly do with the brain. And with it being such a new endeavor in studies in our recent times currently, I was like, I want to learn more. So that's what I did my undergrad in. I received letters, thankfully, from Baylor University, where I really wanted to go to, as well as UTRGV and Texas A&M University and UT in Austin.
Nice.
But at that point, it was more so about weighing not just the programs that they had and what they had available. Like, for instance, Baylor, they had a really amazing neuroscience program where I was actually able to sit in on one of the professor's lectures.
Nice.
Yeah, and he particularly said a quote that really stuck with me and sparked my interest in the brain, which he said that there are as many neurons in your brain as there are stars in the sky. So I was like, oh my goodness, that must mean that there's such a vastness, and how can it be compact, so compact within just our heads alone? I was like, I wanted to learn more. But at that point, it wasn't just about weighing like how good the programs were. It was a matter of paying it and what scholarships were available, right? Particularly because like I know many individuals from the RGV, they're able to tap into financial aid, but my family unfortunately wasn't going to be able to have that opportunity. So I had to think about how much my family's going to need to be paying for it.
Mhm.
And so ultimately, I decided to go to Texas A&M University.
Okay, in
All
College Station?
Yeah, all the way in College Station.
Nice.
And so I would say it's pretty similar to our small Edinburgh, Texas here in the Valley.
Mhm.
It's a pretty small town, very focused and oriented on the university.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
there's
college town.
Yeah, exactly. The college town where there's literally only like 4 main streets, like completely surrounding the university.
Mhm.
And so I did my degree in behavioral and cognitive neuroscience there, but
Wow.
they had a wide array of neuroscience degrees, which was molecular and cellular neuroscience,
Mhm.
as well as a pre-med track in addition to what I wanted to go into. But essentially, I did a lot of those like microbiology courses and that really nitty-gritty stuff about ion channels
Yeah.
and things like that. We didn't go in too much into depth with genetics too much, just more like the biology and that type of thing, as well as with background in psychology. So
Okay.
talking about all the previous experiments like Pavlov's dog. I know there's Skinner's box with the rat and like training, like conditioning.
Okay.
And in addition, there's our famous Sigmund Freud that we also talked about. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Sigmund Freud.
I mean, it rings a bell, but I can't think of anything off the top of my head that's like, oh, this is something specific that they did, you know?
Yeah. He primarily focused on psychoanalysis. And the reason why he could be a little controversial, especially if you're like learning about psychology, is because his theories stemmed around like sexual conflicts, particularly like growing up in development from children all the way to adulthood. But he also did some really cool introspective work. So like looking at dreams and like looking at internal thoughts. So
Cool.
So he was really cool. But basically at A&M I was able to get that background, but also learn a lot about the biology side. And I was able to even participate in an animal research lab under the direction of Dr. Stefan Marin and the guidance of my graduate student, which was Cecily Alexiak. And we focused on the neural networks in PTSD. And do let me know if I need to clarify anything. I know it might be like a words that may not be as familiar, and I don't want to.
Yeah, no, I think you're doing a great job explaining it. You know, nothing too crazy. You know, because that is something that I do periodically with a guest, especially when I have a researcher on that's just like talking super scientific, and I'm like, oh, that means this or that means that. So yeah, just for the the non-science listeners and the people who don't have this much science background as you and I or the researchers. So yeah, no, you're doing great so far.
Okay, perfect. I really hope that this jargon's not too daunting for anybody who is interested in going down these scientific fields. If anything, hopefully it's just even all the more a motivator to dive into it and to learn more about it. But yeah, so that was the research that I did, really looking at animals, like working on brain slicing, the histology, the staining, neuroimaging. And my favorite part was the brain slicing in particular, because I got to see the tiny little brains in the rat models that we were working with. And I honestly think it's a beautiful structure that had to at least be created by some sort of creator. So I did that in my undergrad, and then while I was there, I graduated within the span of 3 years.
Wow. Did you go with the credits already, like high school credit or college credit that you earned in high school, or was it just?
Unfortunately, no.
Oh, wow.
I should have. I really should have dived in on that associate's degree when they started offering it with early college.
Yeah.
But all that I had for help and assistance were my AP courses.
Okay.
So that helped a little bit. But what primarily helped was me just kind of really trying to speed through the classes.
Yeah, just like loading your schedule every semester.
Yes, like 16 hours per semester.
That's how I was too, because as an undergrad, I was using my GI Bill, being a military veteran. And the GI Bill is based on days in class. That's it. Just like you get X amount of days in class for your benefit. And so if you take a bunch of classes, you get more out of your benefit. And if you take less classes, then obviously your benefit will run out faster, because it's just number of days in class.
Oh my goodness.
And so I was taking 16 to 19 hours a semester, like 5 to 6 classes. And I would try to jam even more in there, but because, with the STEM, I was chemistry and chemical engineering undergrad, was what I got my degrees in.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, with those chemistry labs and even the chemical engineering labs, I mean, they take such huge blocks of your schedule. And so that's why I wasn't able to fit more classes in. But I would have taken like 7 or 8 classes if I could have, but yeah, I was just trying to kill myself and use as much of my benefit as I could to just get through it all. So I totally understand where you're coming from.
Oh, nice. I had no idea that that was the case with the GI Bill.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right, with like the chemical engineering labs or any lab, they're at least like 2.5 hours long. So, oh my goodness. Now that gives me more perspective of my dad, because he's also a veteran, and he also went for his PhD.
Oh wow!
And so he used the GI Bill to like assist with that. And I think some of those hours were able to transfer to us, but it wasn't as much, right? Because it was the PhD.
Yeah, well, so the GI Bill I used was kind of the post 9/11 GI Bill. So that one is a little bit different than what I'm guessing your dad probably used was the Montgomery GI Bill. And so yeah, I don't know exactly how the Montgomery GI Bill worked, but the way the post 9/11 GI Bill was just like days in class, and so yeah, so it was just like basically these veterans are trying to get the most out of their benefits that they can.
Yeah. And
so yeah, it was just taking as many classes as I could.
No, yeah, and as we may well know, like taking that many classes can be taxing at times, but after graduating, I would say it was all the more worth it.
Oh yeah, no doubt. And so just kind of backtracking a little bit. So you grew up on the ranch. You said in the Monte. So yeah, you grew up on a ranch. Yeah.
Yes. So we grew up on, I think it's about, maybe it's not too much, but maybe like 7-8 acres.
Okay.
Just a small part that was preserved from the ranch that my great grandpa was able to like cultivate and use. Only because like other parts of it are also shared with other family members. Yeah. So my neighbor was actually my great grandma before she passed away. So she was one of my neighbors, and then right next to her was my grandpa and my grandma, and then after they passed away, my tias moved in, and then everywhere else around us we have like their cousins living, like the brother of my grandpa. So we kind of, growing up, we called it like Carriaga-Lucio, but of course that's not official. Just with so many of us there growing up in the ranch.
Yeah, it's really interesting because that's kind of similar to how I grew up. I grew up on about 100 acres, and it was the same thing. We had our 10-acre little plot for our family. My uncle had his little 10-20 acre plot, but yeah, that's kind of where the name Caliche Kid came from, because I would be, I'm pretty light complected, especially when I was that young. When I was young. And so I'd be out there playing on the Caliche roads, and because I was so light complected, they'd be like, "Man, we can barely see you playing out there on the road. You blend in with it," and they just started calling me Caliche Kid. And so when I applied for, to be a DJ on Vaquero Radio, they wanted a DJ name, and I'm like, "Well, a DJ name? Didn't even know where to start." And I'm like, I'll just put Caliche Kid, and it kind of just stuck, and seemingly people really enjoy it. So.
Well, now I know that. I was wondering why also the name Caliche Kid whenever you introduced yourself to me with that.
Oh yeah.
So I was like, oh, that makes sense now. So. Yeah.
So okay. So fast forwarding, a little bit, you got your undergrad. When did you graduate?
Yes.
From Texas A&M.
So I graduated in August of 2023.
Okay.
And the particular reason why I sped run through it a little bit, I know people say, "Oh, enjoy your undergrad years. Like those are going to be the best years of your life." It's particularly because although I had mentioned that in high school I really wanted to go out of the valley and see what was out there in the world, I realized being away from home that
you missed it.
Yes, exactly. It felt so lonely. Even though I did have my cousin there, so my cousin was actually my roommate for like the entirety of me being there for those 3 years. Like it still felt lonely. Like we had each other.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm sure it helped y'all get through it without the real, true, dark, depressing loneliness.
Yes, exactly. Especially with freshman year and the freshman 15. But yes, although we had each other, I started thinking about missing my family, missing the community, the Hispanic community that we have here in the RGV. And I realized, okay, I need to go back. I need to go back as soon as I can. So that's why I really sped run through it. And things also happened in my undergrad where Some family members particularly began to struggle with like mental health and like with the dementia, like I said, with my grandpa. I don't know if I actually mentioned that. I could have been thinking about it, but both my grandparents on my dad's side, they passed away from cancer.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
No, it has been a while, so I feel that my family's been able to heal from it.
Mm-hmm.
But my grandma was an really aggressive cancer where she passed away. I think it was within the span of like 6 months.
Wow.
Yeah. And so it took her really quick. And then after that, like a couple years after, then my grandpa got diagnosed with cancer. Again, also really aggressive cancer. It's got a complicated name to it too. But while he was in the recovery and while my Aunt Esther, she was actually taking care of both of them. That's why she moved into their house with her wife. That he also started to develop dementia and he started forgetting our names.
Wow.
But one thing that really helped like our family cope with it and also him to cope with it, like towards the end of his life, was me playing mariachi music for him.
Oh, that's awesome.
So that was something that he's always loved, and whenever I would play it, he would just remember so many things.
Wow.
So again, that just added all the more to my passion and helped me see that I genuinely felt the direction God wanted me to go to was investigating with this population, and not only this population, but also the people that take care of them, hopefully with music in particular. So yeah, just to recap, while I was in my undergrad, those things were going on. My grandpa passed away. My little sister, she was struggling with her mental health too, and that's what drove me to seek and look out for clinical psychology programs.
Wow.
If not those programs, then also maybe perhaps neuroscience. But again, hopefully striving to find one in the RGV. And I remember when I was applying for undergrad, there was no neuro program here. There was no clinical psychology program.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, and that was in 2020 because I graduated.
That's
during
pretty
COVID.
recent. Yeah.
So by chance, or I think it's an absolute blessing, when I did look it up when I was trying to find programs here in the RGV, the clinical psychology PhD program popped up.
Nice.
Yeah, so I applied as soon as I could, hoping that that would be the one that I would be able to get into. I do think that was actually one of 3 possible programs that I applied to, but that was the one that I really wanted to go to again because I wanted to come back home.
You wanted to be back home, in the region.
And so thankfully I got an interview and I got in.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, well, I think that'll be a good stopping point for a music break. So thanks for listening, everyone, and stay tuned. We'll be right back. All right, everyone, and we're back. So thanks for staying tuned in. So we're back with Denise talking about her undergrad journey and, talking about her background. So you said you had graduated in 2023, right?
Yes.
With your bachelor's degree. And so, and then you found the program down here, you applied, you got in, and so, what year were you, like how long have you been in the program, and if you want to speak a little bit about the program and your research and what you've learned now, go ahead.
Yeah. So it was a pretty quick process for me because I had started applying the last year that I was an undergrad. So as soon as I graduated in August 2023, that was actually where I immediately started the program also in August.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I graduated in the beginning and it started at the end of the same month. But I would say the program's been really awesome. It's a really, I feel like, essential program for clinical psychology currently because they're focusing on that additional component of, in a way, like providing bilingual services or teaching how to conduct bilingual services to the entirety of the United States, like wherever we go. But essentially the main goal is to hopefully have the students that graduate stay here in the RGV so that way we could grow the mental health resources that we do have here. So, but that's the main focus, having that bilingual kind of orientation for like therapy or even psychological assessments, which is where they test for like disorders like ADHD or learning disorders, and things like that. But yeah, the program's a 6-year long program.
Wow.
Yeah, so it sounds pretty long, I know, because usually we're kind of taught that, oh yeah, programs should usually last about 4 years, right? But thankfully, I would say the good part of the 6 years is that it's not a year-long program. We actually get our breaks, so we get summer break and winter break.
Okay.
And that helps us in a way recuperate and regenerate, especially with the chronic stress that tends to come up in any PhD program, really. So we stay here on campus for the first 5 years, and then the 6th year, that's where we're off on an APIC internship, and where we're really putting the skills and the things that we learned into practice in the clinical setting. So at like psychology clinics, or it could be in the hospital settings, where they're doing like brief, like intermittent forms of therapy for like severe, like inpatient individuals.
Okay.
Inpatient is whenever the individual needs to be kept in a single facility, compared to outpatient where you're providing like mental health services, but they're able to come and go between home. So that's where they're able to practice those skills as well as like assessments. But again, it depends on the internship that they want. But yeah, within the program, the first 2 years for me were like really rigorous because of the coursework. So in undergrad, usually the classes are like 45 minutes, maybe an hour, right?
Yeah.
In PhD programs, it's like completely different, right? So they're like 2.5 hour long courses.
Yeah, like you get the little 10-minute break, but you know, in the halfway of the class when the professor sees people are kind of starting to fade away.
Yes.
Like, okay, everybody get up, go take a break, 5 minutes, come back.
Yes, exactly. Like when the professor sees the moment where the students' souls are kind of leaving their bodies.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we were kind of really stacked the first 2 years with like 4 to 3 courses, packed on 2 specific days in particular, because we had to actually balance the 2 with clinical work as well. So that's why I think it's also really cool about this program is that we're able to practice in clinical settings, particularly at the UTRGV Psychology Clinic. So at this clinic, we're able to provide services to the underserved. The purpose, because mental health services can be so expensive in particular, especially with private practices and the difficulty with using insurances, this clinic in particular, it goes based on a sliding scale. So whatever income you're making, that's going to determine the amount that you make. So the lowest amount that we have some clients paying is $5, and it can go up to, I don't think too much. It should definitely be like less than $100.
It probably all depends on the services you're going to provide, right? Like at the basic level, just to go in and get checked out, you know, $5-10. But of course, if there's something that they're going to recommend that you do extra, of course, it's going to be maybe an extra small incursion of cost.
Yeah, exactly. Like for instance, for our psychological assessments or even neuropsychological assessments, which is for individuals who want to get tested for like neurocognitive impairment, like dementia, Alzheimer's, or after a like brain injury, with those services, they do tend to be like priced a little bit higher than the therapy services. So exactly like you said, but it all goes based on a sliding scale. Which is, I think, really perfect to utilize in the Hispanic community that we have in the RGV because of like the average socioeconomic status.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what I really love about UTRGV. The fact that they recognize that, you know, and they're doing as much as they can to help the community while also not trying to burden them with unnecessary medical debt, you know?
Yeah.
Because, like, you know, there's so many other developed countries out there where they basically have free healthcare, you know? But when you want to, you know, and here in the States, of course, you know, you go to the doctor, you have this huge deductibles you have to pay through your insurance before you actually get to go to a doctor for free, you know, for no cost out of pocket. And so, yeah, it's really awesome what UTRGV is doing. And I know I had so just a heads up, everyone, next week's episode, it's going to be with Tori Sayers. She's a second-year medical student. And she was talking about, I can't remember what the acronym is, but it's like AHOC or something like that. But it's basically like a low-cost health clinic that people can go to. And I was so glad whenever she brought it up because spending a lot of time in Brownsville, I know a lot of people there on the lower income side, and they're always asking about like, hey, where can I go get checked out? And so I was like, oh, I deal with people who are medical doctors, school of medicine, that kind of environment. So I asked one of Dr. Aaron Manusoff one day, and he explained that to me, the low-cost health clinic, and I was like, oh, that's so cool. And there's 3 of them throughout the valley, is what Tori had told me. So yeah, be sure to tune in to next week's episode, everyone, because it's going to be a good one.
Yes, and those services really are needed here in the RGV, because if we're not having affordable services, whether it be for like physical health and mental health, then people aren't going to be taking care of themselves.
Yeah, to be the best version of yourself, you really have to be on, at a minimum, your physical health, but for sure your mental health, because without having good mental health, you're just making yourself sick because you're stressing more than you should, maybe over things that aren't so important to stress over, and it's just those kind of physiological impacts of your mental health impacting your physical health.
Yeah, and with you mentioning that actually reminds me a lot of mi suegra, because she knows that I take on so much with the PhD program, and I've had so many difficulties with anxiety. Like I had a period in my second year or first year, I believe, where I was actually throwing up from anxiety every single day. So it is absolutely true that in order to be able to take care of even others, we first have to take care of ourselves.
Yeah, no doubt.
In both areas, physically and mentally. But yeah, so thankfully we do provide those services, particularly with this program for mental health. And we're able to see clients on those 2 days, or usually 2 days. It depends on what year you're in. But we provide a variety of different types of treatments depending on what symptoms the clients are presenting with. So there's cognitive behavioral therapy, where we're looking at behaviors and thoughts. There's dialectical behavioral therapy, where you're focusing on learning skills that could help you manage really strong, difficult emotions. There's also like cognitive processing therapy, or like trauma exposure therapy, all different forms of therapy. We have absolutely excellent supervisors to teach us to use these and provide them to the community. Nice. And specialize it on an individual basis. So it truly is an honor to be a part of being able to provide that to our community in the RGV. But yeah, that's one of the many great things about this program that I've been able to learn and experience. But coming in, they also highly emphasize being able to not only balance that clinician hat, but my director of clinical training, our DCT, Dr. Cantos, he says that we need to balance not only having the clinician hat, but also having the researcher hat on top of that. So we practice the scientist practitioner model within the program. And so that means that we also highly emphasize research. So coming in, not only do we have to balance clinical work, classes, again, that it's majority in the first 2 years.
The coursework, you mean, right? The classes, yeah.
Yes, the coursework, but we also had to start to figure out, okay, what research do we want to go into? What am I passionate about learning in this community that could possibly contribute to treatments that we already have for Hispanics in particular. Particularly because, again, we're servicing the RGV, and at about 99, 97%, I believe, I need to check back on the statistics, is Hispanic, whoever lives here in RGV.
Oh, yeah, that's very high percent.
And so coming in, thankfully, I was absolutely blessed with my mentor, Dr. Philip Gascoigne, who is also passionate about neuroscience and psychology. So he specializes in neuropsychology, so that combination of the two.
Wow.
He is so gracious, and he provides me the guidance that I need to research what I'm passionate about, which is a little different from the other mentors that we have in the program, where they greatly help their PhD students, but they have more of a guided research interest. So, like Dr. Cantos, our DCT, he focuses on interpartner violence research. We have Dr. Mercado, who primarily works with research with immigration and mental health on the border, in the borderlands, and Dr. Cecilia, She focuses on research in the autism spectrum disorder here in the Valley, and
Okay.
she's like collaborating with that area. I believe Dr. Nicole Velez Agosto, she's focusing on cancer patients right now. So within the program alone, we have
There's-
such that diversity.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
What a cool environment to see the different, I guess, disciplines. I don't know if that's the right word I want to use, but like the different fields of psychology and the impacts and the different ways you can go about, because obviously, like you had mentioned, the PTSD treatment and, like the cancer treatment, because of course, I mean, in a way, having cancer is a bit of, it's traumatic, of course, the
Yeah.
experiences, but there's going to be slight differences in terms of treating somebody's mental health that was in a bad car accident and now they're afraid to get into a car versus somebody who was diagnosed with cancer and has thoughts of maybe passing away soon or things like that. So that's really an interesting, and it sounds like a really wonderful environment to be in, just to see those different aspects of psychology and helping people with their mental health.
Yeah, for sure. We are able to work with a diversity of populations, and again, trying to find the best way to provide the best form of care for that particular patient and with that particular those particular symptoms, right? But that gives me the liberty, especially with my mentor, to go into what I'm really passionate about. So as I kind of mentioned before, I was always interested in the population of Alzheimer's and dementia, right? Because of my background with music and seeing within the documentary Alive Inside the impact that listening to music has on the brain to help recall memories. So that's what I initially was going to be working on. It was going to be music mnemonics and being able to decrease aggressive behaviors that do present themselves, especially in the later stages of Alzheimer's and dementia.
Okay, wow.
But that project is needing a little bit more time to plan. And then certain circumstances did come about that gave me the inspiration and the passion for a new project. And the thing that happened was, it was in 2024. It was actually in summer, so when we were off from school, it was the time where I really needed to focus and hone down on what research I need to do, because we have something called the second year project.
Okay.
And it's kind of like a thesis. And for some students, it can be quite daunting because we need to figure out, okay, how do we make the study? Like, how are we going to find the procedure? How are we going to access the population and things like that? So during that time that I was planning, I had already written up the manuscript for my Alzheimer's and dementia project. But then my mom got diagnosed with breast cancer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so she was diagnosed with the two different forms of breast cancer that there is, which is ductal, and then I believe the other one.
I wish I could tell you, because I've had
Yeah.
women come on and share their breast cancer stories, and obviously they've gone through the journey, so they know so much about the different types and the different, like you said, the different major types, and whether it's genetic or not genetic, and it's maybe more environmental and triple negative, and there's just like so much lingo that goes with that of course the women who've gone through that journey know. But yeah, I totally understand. There's just so much different information about the various breast cancers and the way they can impact people.
Yeah, and I feel like that just goes to show how much we've already learned about it. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, for sure.
But essentially, she had the two different forms where one of them stays in like the breast area, while the other can spread to the lymph nodes.
Okay, yeah.
So she was diagnosed with stage 1 of the one where it stays, and then stage 3 with the one that spreads to the lymph nodes. And so it was a really scary time because I just love my mom so much.
Of course, yeah.
She raised us. She had always been the super mom in a way. So the best caregiver that there could ever be. She was like cleaning the house all the time, making sure she cooked all of our meals. She tried not to get fast food too much because, we know it's not too good, like growing up and things like that. So I always remember the home cooked meals. But in addition to her trying to create that nurturing environment, you could just see the chronic stress taking a toll. And I truly believe that that's what may have contributed to the expression of cancer, right?
Yeah.
Because it's both genes and it's both environment, and most of all, within the environment, stress could trigger it. So after she got that diagnosis, the whole family started to get together, kind of like how my family got together after my grandparents' diagnosis of cancer, where we were trying to attend to her. We took care of her after they had done the surgeries of both breasts, so she had to remove both.
Oh, double mastectomy?
Yeah, double mastectomy, and they had to remove some lymph nodes because it already had metastasized to some lymph nodes. And then additionally, so like there were times where, like, since I lived at home with both my parents, like at the first part of my program, I would help my dad like shower her, take care of her, trying to like maintain everything. And then after the surgery, she had to start the radioactive treatment. So it was pretty rigorous. But what I found really interesting was that all the while she was undergoing that treatment, she still took the time to care for her family. So she took care of my grandma who struggles with depression. She kept trying to bring her home so that way we could take care of her. She still tried to take care of her needs in addition to making sure that we're still eating.
Yeah, of course. And trying to, keep as normal a life as possible, right? In terms of maintaining the homestead and making sure everybody was, of course it's that that motherly love where she wants to make sure her kids are fed and doing well, and the whole family unit, so
yeah. So it was a moment where we needed to take care of her, but she still put her foot down and said, I'm going to take care of you guys. So that's the primary inspiration that I have for my current research project, which is going to be my second year project, where I'm particularly interested in what can we find in like research findings that could help caregivers. Because I feel like within the Hispanic community, caregiving is kind of like breathing. People don't really know that they're actually doing it. They're just doing it, like how easy it is to breathe. And so I feel like it's just something that's greatly embedded in our culture, and something that we do automatically. So I'm wondering, with the toll that caregiving can have at times, if there's anything we could do to help with that. Like the toll that my mom experienced with the chronic stress, even when she was taking care of us, that contributed to her like breast cancer, right? So that's what I'm looking into, trying to see, okay, what are some things in our culture that can protect us against the negative impacts that sometimes caregiving can have, right? Which is something we call caregiver burden. It's not a bad thing, but it just means that when an individual is taking care of someone for so long, it's the best way I could describe it is kind of like when you're scuba diving, I guess, and when you're underwater for so long, you're like trying to figure out things, finding cool things in like the scuba diving adventure, and you're just so focused on that sometimes it's hard to remember to go back up to breathe. So I kind of think of caregiving like that since they're so immersed in their caregiving role, that it could get to the extent
that they don't realize they're drowning, kind of thing.
Exactly. So that's what I really want to help with, particularly in our Hispanic community or any like Mexican American caregiver, because we all have some specific aspects of our culture that influence how we make decisions, how we go about our day-to-day. So one of the cultural factors could actually be like familismo. I'm not sure if that's familiar. It's the value that family has within the Hispanic community. So again, like really having that intense caregiving type of love for the individuals that we have in our lives, and some aspects of that could possibly protect it. So that's what I really want to do with my research and the background behind that. But yeah.
Cool. All right, well, we're going to take another quick music break, everyone, so stay tuned, and we'll be right back for the last segment of the show. Thanks. All right, everyone, thanks for staying tuned in, and now we're here again with Denise to continue talking about her, research interest and her background. So, I see here you have, what was it again?
It was my second year project proposal.
Okay, cool. Yeah, if you don't mind sharing that with us or whatever, you want to, share about your proposal would be great.
Okay, yeah. So I would definitely love to share some interesting facts that I think are important for the community to know, and maybe even for students to see if they could help with this like incoming research that we're going to be particularly focusing on. So some interesting facts is the reason why I feel caregiving is so important is because currently, with the recent years, surveys have been done to show that the life expectancy for Hispanic Americans has actually increased to about 80 years old.
Okay, wow.
Which is, I would say, higher than the average for European Americans, which is 77 years old.
Wow.
So it's great that we're being able to develop ways to have people have longer life expectancies, but what we're also noticing is that with longer lives, there's also coming about like a stronger presence of diseases and illnesses too. So
yeah, that's a double-edged sword. It's not just about your lifespan, but it's also the health span. And unfortunately, the longer we live, the chances are we're going to end up sick or with some kind of disease or cancer.
No, yeah, exactly. And there's one study that shows that the top causes of illnesses and death in the Mexican American population, particularly with this longer life expectancy, is obesity, heart disease, cancer, stroke, type 2 diabetes, Alzheimer's disease, and chronic liver disease. So we're having more of a prevalency of these things. And so that makes me believe that not only do we need to develop good treatments to help manage these diseases, but we need to figure out how to develop good quality care for caregivers. Because as we know, especially with the low socioeconomic status, the average that we have here in the RGV, people are hesitant to reach out to clinics or to seek that medical or even mental health help.
And that's actually, I'm glad that you brought that up because I've been wanting to ask you, because I feel like there's still a fairly big stigma surrounding mental health, especially in the Hispanic / Mexican American community. So is there anything that you all do to try to kind of beat down those preconceived notions or barriers or however you want to put it about mental health care?
Yeah, for sure. There is definitely still that stigma. So in addition to having difficulty going to physical clinics, when it comes to mental health clinics, it's all the more difficult because within our Hispanic community, we think that if we're struggling mentally or with our emotions, that must mean that we're going crazy. Or it must be that it's like a spiritual attack or something like that. So what we're really trying to do in the program is not only trying to do research and figure out these things, but it's also providing a lot of psychoeducation. So doing a lot of outreach via social media or in person to the community. So that way they could learn like, hey, there's this resource here. But also learn that it's okay to be struggling with these symptoms, so like symptoms of depression or anxiety, and that there are ways to manage it. So I know there's one particular resource that I absolutely love. Her name is Cali Fernandez. She's from the House of Hope, Love, and Justice. I believe that's the correct title. I'm so sorry, Cali, if I say it wrong. But she also helps with mental health and trying to bring that psychoeducation awareness. She's not associated with the program, but I did help her out with an internship that I did over the summer.
Okay, cool.
Where I was able to contribute to talking and providing talking to individuals that were undergoing the immigration process along the borderlands. But she focuses on mental health in colonias. So doing classes, like being able to provide also like healthy food resources, like with food banks and things like that to those communities. But yeah, it requires a lot of psychoeducation, right? And so that's why I think it's important to talk about this information in my study because, again, yes, we can help those individuals that are struggling with it, but because there's that hesitancy and there's still that stigma, then maybe we could also help by figuring out, okay, what could help with the caregivers in the home then? And so that's why I would actually like to extend the opportunity to participate in this study that I'm doing for my second year project. It's called Lo hago porque te amo. which was inspired by my mom and everything that she does. Um, and so it's essentially a pretty short survey. It's 15 to 20 minutes,
Okay.
just asking questions about the caregiving experience. And all that individuals need to do to qualify for it is be between the ages 18 to 90. They need to be of Mexican American descent or heritage. And they need to be an unpaid caregiver to like a loved one, a spouse, or even a friend, right? Just anybody that cannot take care of themselves and that need assistance. So that could be like anybody in the valley. Like it could be like newborn moms. They go through a lot. It could be caregivers of someone with cancer, someone who's taking care of a child with ASD, or even particularly, especially those taking care of the elderly. So yeah, I would definitely like to extend the opportunity. So like if anybody's interested in participating, they just need to like reach out to my email, which is denise.carriaga01@utrgv.edu, and that way I could see how they could participate in the study. And once they complete it, they do qualify to receive a $10 gift card.
Okay.
Just to give thanks for the time and their interest in contributing to the study.
Okay, cool. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And now we're coming in up to the end of the show. We got a couple minutes left, so you've already shared some of the stuff, but I always like to give the mic to the guests. So if there's anything else you'd like to share, any shout outs to mentors or any advice you want to give, or whatever you want to say, the mic is yours now, so feel free.
Thank you. Well, I guess I could give a shout out for sure. I give a shout out to like my family, who growing up is the particular reason why I'm here today. I like to think of it that they've molded my interests in research and what I want to look into based on like how they took care of me. And most particularly this Hispanic community, this amazing community that we have in the RGV, that with their contribution to our culture, that's kind of molded me to who I am today and why I'm so passionate about looking into this in our community and seeing how we could best help out and provide resources for them. As well as a shout out to our amazing UTRGV Clinical Psychology PhD program. If you are interested in applying, please feel free. Our next applying time period starts, I believe it's around close to October of the next fall semester.
Okay.
We are currently conducting interviews, so interviews do typically occur during this time, like February or January, I think.
Okay.
But yeah, please come ask us questions, anything that you may be interested in. And thank you so much, DJ Kalichike, for inviting me to talk on the show today, and I greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, of course, no problem. I really appreciate you coming on. Like I said, at the beginning of the show, it was fairly short notice, and I always appreciate, you making time in your busy schedule to come on and share this amazing information and research that you're doing. So, of course, thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
It was fun. And so, yeah, that's it, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to RGV Community Health Hour. This is DJ Kalicha Kid here to remind you to stay curious, stay healthy, and let's thrive together, RGV.